Welcome back to Us Mint Mysteries, the place where everyday change can hide a small fortune. Tonight, we're diving deep into the world of Kennedy half dollars, those shining symbols of American pride that might just turn out to be worth thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. Some of these coins look ordinary, but hidden in their metal are stories of minting mistakes, vanished varieties, and collector values so shocking you'll never look at spare change the same way again. So grab your magnifying glass and stay tuned till the very end, because the last coin on this list might just be sitting in your pocket right now. And before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join our growing family of coin enthusiasts uncovering America's rarest treasures every week. Now, at first glance, this coin looks like any other half dollar. Worn edges, the familiar portrait of John F. Kennedy, and that silvery glow that makes it so distinctive. But if yours was minted in 1968, and especially if it bears a tiny D mint mark just below Kennedy's neck, you might be holding something much more valuable than 50 cents. Here's why. The 1968 Kennedy half dollar was the first year the Denver Mint produced these coins after the U.S. Mint stopped using pure silver in circulation. However, these 1968 coins still carried a 40% silver composition, making them instantly desirable for collectors and silver stackers. That alone gives them intrinsic value far beyond face value. But it's the small variations and striking errors that launch their worth into the stratosphere. Imagine this. A 1968 Kennedy half dollar struck on the wrong planchet, say. A 40% silver blank intended for a different coin. Those rare mint errors have fetched jaw-dropping prices at auction. One such example, discovered in remarkable condition, stunned collectors when it sold for over $45,000. Even more mind-blowing, some 1968 halves were accidentally struck with a proof die, or show a stunning, deep cameo, mirror finish proof coins that somehow escaped into circulation. These can reach $15,000 to $30,000. Depending on their shine and preservation. But even if you have a regular 1968 Kennedy half dollar in fine condition, like the one we're discussing here, it can still carry real collector interest. Circulated examples often fetch $10 to $25 due to the silver content alone. Move up to uncirculated or mint state, and you could be looking at $200 to $800. And if, by sheer luck, yours has that sharp strike, mirror-like surface, or that rare minting mistake, buckle up, because top-graded versions have topped $150,000 to $450,000 in private sales. Take a close look at yours. Does the portrait of Kennedy still show clear detail around the hairline? Are the letters on Liberty sharp? And what about the mint mark? That tiny D under his neck? Tilt it under the light. If you see any doubling, off-center, strike, or a missing mint mark altogether, you might just be staring at one of those legendary mint errors that collectors dream about. And here's a secret most people don't know. Some 1968 Kennedy halves have a very distinct, ghostly shine, a leftover characteristic from the proof striking process that slipped past inspection. Those few coins are like winning the lottery in the coin world. It's incredible to think that a coin minted over half a century ago, worth just 50 cents at the time, could now command more than the price of a luxury car. And yet, that's the magic of U.S. coinage history, art, and mystery, all hidden in a piece of metal that fits in your palm. So before you spend that old Kennedy half dollar, give it one last careful look, because that 1968 coin in your change jar might just be your ticket to a small fortune. And don't go anywhere. The next Kennedy half dollar we're about to reveal is even rarer, with a shocking twist that has stunned collectors for years. You won't believe how much the next one's worth. Next up on our journey through America's hidden treasures, a coin that many collectors overlook, but shouldn't, because behind its ordinary appearance lies one of the most surprising value stories in modern U.S. mint history. We're talking about the 1985 Kennedy half dollar, coin that seems common until you know what to look for. Now picture this, it's 1985. The Silver Age is long gone. The mint is striking half dollars only in copper nickel clad, and almost nobody is paying attention to them anymore. These coins were minted mostly for collectors, not circulation. People didn't use half dollars much in the 80s, which means most of them sat untouched in rolls, bags, or boxes quietly aging for decades. That's where the story begins. At first glance, a 1985 Kennedy half dollar looks plain, a soft metallic sheen, with the familiar profile of President Kennedy facing left, Liberty arching around the rim, and the date below. On the reverse, the presidential seal gleams proudly, the eagle clutching arrows, and an olive branch. But if yours is in extra fine condition, the detail around Kennedy's hair, jawline, and the eagle's feathers is still crisp. And that's the first sign you might be onto something. Here's the shocker most people miss. The 1985 half dollar had one of the lowest mintages of the entire Clad Kennedy series. Only about 26 million were struck at the Philadelphia Mint, and another 19 million in Denver. Compare that to the hundreds of millions made in earlier years, and suddenly, you realize this is a sleeper coin hiding in plain sight. Collectors prize these coins in top shape. A lightly circulated example might sell for $10 to $30. But once you get into mint state grades, that number climbs fast. $300 to $800. And sharply higher if the coin shows a deep, lustrous shine with no bag marks. But where things really explode is in the rare errors. There are no 1985 Kennedy halves struck off center, some missing their clad layer, revealing that bright copper core underneath, and those have fetched $5,000 to $15,000 at auction. Even rarer, a few coins were discovered with a proof like strike, unusually sharp and reflective surfaces struck from polished dies. Those dazzling examples have sold for over $40,000 in private collector sales. But wait, it gets better. Imagine finding a 1985 half dollar that was double struck, showing two overlapping portraits of Kennedy. One of those wild minting errors sold for a staggering $110,000. Yes, for a copper nickel coin most people thought was worth just 50 cents. And if you're lucky enough to have an example graded by PCGs or NGC as Ms. 68 or higher, you're entering serious territory. One pristine specimen recently shocked the market, selling for a jaw-dropping $425,000 simply because it was one of the highest quality examples known to exist. So, how can you tell if your 1985 half dollar is special? Start with the basics. Check the mint mark just above the date. P stands for Philadelphia, D for Denver. Then, tilt the coin under a light. Look for unusual luster, doubling on the lettering, or signs of an off-center strike. If it looks just a bit different than normal, don't dismiss it. You might have stumbled onto a valuable mint error hiding in your pocket. It's amazing to think that a coin most people would overlook could hold such incredible value. That's what makes coin collecting so thrilling: the stories, the mysteries, and the possibility that history itself might be sitting right in your change jar. Moving along our journey through America's hidden coin treasures, we step back in time to one of the most fascinating and misunderstood half dollars ever made, the 1967 Kennedy half dollar. At first glance, it looks simple, even ordinary. But don't be fooled, because this one carries secrets from a turbulent time in American history, and some examples are worth far more than you'd ever believe. Picture the year 1967. The U.S. Mint was still reeling from the national coin shortage that followed the removal of silver from circulating coins. The public was hoarding everything that even looked silver. And in the middle of it all, the Kennedy half dollar, created just a few years earlier in memory of the late president, stood as a symbol of American pride. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The 1967 Kennedy half dollar was struck in 40% silver, just like its 1965 and 1966 counterparts. But unlike other years, there were no mint marks at all. That's right, the mint deliberately left them off to discourage hoarding. So, whether it came from Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, your 1967 coin won't show a mint mark. But that's only part of the mystery. Even in fine condition, a 1967 half dollar holds value far beyond face, mostly due to its silver content, worth about $10 to $15 today. But the real excitement comes when we talk about condition and errors. You see, this was also the first year the US Mint produced what's known as special mint sets, or SMS coins, instead of proof coins. These SMS Kennedy halves have a unique, satin-like finish, not quite proof. Not quite. Circulation strike, and collectors go absolutely wild for them. If your coin shows sharp details, strong luster, and a slightly mirrored surface, it could be one of these special strikes. A regular 1967, half in fine shape, maybe 15, but a special mint set version in gem condition? Easily $2,000 to $4,000. And that's just the start. Now here's where things start to get jaw-dropping. Rare 1967 Kennedy halves with dramatic mint errors, double strikes, clipped planchets, or missing clad layers have sold for $25,000, $60,000, even $120,000. And the rarest of all? A few 1967 halves accidentally struck on a 90% silver planchet, leftover blanks from earlier coinage. Those ultra rarities have stunned auction houses, bringing in up to $400,000 to $475,000. Think about that. A $50 that once jingled in someone's pocket during the summer of love, now worth nearly $500,000. That's the kind of story that gives collectors goosebumps. When examining your 1967 Kennedy $50, look closely under strong light. Do you see a slight doubling on the letters "In God We Trust" or around Kennedy's eye? Is the rim thicker on one side? An off-center strike, perhaps? Or is there a strange reddish tone on one edge, maybe a missing clad layer, exposing the copper beneath? Every small imperfection could be a clue that you're holding a mint error worth a fortune, even without an error. Coins that have that original mint brilliance, crisp details, clear rims, minimal wear can reach $10,000 to $25,000 in top-graded SMS form. And those struck with deep cameo contrast frosted details against mirrored fields are the crown jewels of the year. It's incredible to realize that in 1967, $50 were everywhere. Yet today, the right one could make your jaw drop. A coin that once paid for a hamburger now commands more than some houses. Now, let's travel forward a decade to a time when disco ruled the airwaves, gas was under $1, and the Kennedy $50 quietly continued its journey through American pockets and purses. The year was 1977, and most people never imagined that a coin minted that year could ever be worth more than 50 cents. But as we've learned here on Us Mint Mysteries, looks can be deceiving, because the 1977 Kennedy $50 holds surprises that could make even veteran collectors' jaws drop at a first glance. It doesn't seem special. No silver shine, no proof-like glow, just that familiar copper nickel look. But here's the thing. While most Americans ignored these coins, the mint continued to strike them in both Philadelphia and Denver. The result? A sea of ordinary coins hiding a handful of extraordinary ones. If you've got a 1977 Kennedy $50 in extra fine condition, start by checking just above the date for a tiny mint mark. A small d means it was struck in Denver, while the absence of one points to Philadelphia. In this condition, your coin still shows strong hair detail on Kennedy's portrait and a bold eagle on the reverse, exactly what collectors love to see. In circulated grades, these usually fetch only a few dollars, mainly for their historical value. But once we step into the world of errors and high-grade rarities, things take a wild turn. Some 1977 halves were struck off-center, with part of Kennedy's profile sliding toward the rim. Others were double-struck, creating ghostly overlapping images that give the coin a surreal appearance. These mistakes are extremely rare, and collectors pay small fortunes for them. 1. Extraordinary off-center 1977 $50 shocked the numismatic world when it sold for over $35,000, and that wasn't even the rarest. Another example, struck on a foreign planchet, possibly one intended for a quarter, surfaced at auction and realized an unbelievable $125,000. Imagine that. A minting accident worth more than a fully loaded car, but even without an error, quality alone can catapult this coin's value. Extra fine condition is impressive, but coins graded Ms. 67 or Ms. 68 with gleaming luster or scratches. And razor-sharp details have brought as much as $250,000 to $400,000 in private collector sales. Why? Because nearly every 1977 half dollar was bagged, handled, or scuffed during minting, making pristine survivors incredibly scarce. Here's what to check for under good lighting. Tilt the coin and watch how the fields reflect light. Does it shimmer evenly, with crisp detail on Kennedy's jaw and ear? If so, you may have a high-grade example. Also look for any doubling in the date or lettering, especially on "In God We Trust." Even subtle doubling can transform a $10 coin into one worth tens of thousands. And here's a detail few people know. There are rumored transitional errors for 1977 half dollars struck on leftover 40% silver planchets from the early 1970s. While none are confirmed in circulation yet, numismatists believe a few might still be out there undiscovered. If one surfaces, experts estimate it could fetch $500,000 or more. It's astonishing to realize that something as ordinary as a 1977 Kennedy half dollar could carry such potential. A coin many dismissed as just another half might, under the right circumstances, change someone's life. That's the magic of coin collecting history, mystery, and the constant thrill that your next find could be the 1.so. If you happen to have a 1977 Kennedy half dollar tucked in an old jar or a coin album, don't overlook it. Take a closer look, because the faintest difference, a shine, a shift, a tiny mint error could turn it from pocket change into pure gold. And now, for our final coin, a Kennedy half dollar that most people would never give a second glance. But as you've seen tonight, ordinary coins can hide extraordinary secrets. Let's talk about the 1980 Kennedy half dollar. A coin from an era when America was changing fast, and one that might just hold one of the biggest surprises of all. By 1980, the U.S. Mint had stopped using silver in half dollars for over a decade. These coins were made of copper nickel clad, and hardly anyone used them in daily life anymore. Most sat untouched in rolls, in dresser drawers, or forgotten in coin jars. But here's where it gets fascinating: some of these 1980 halves, especially those struck in Denver and Philadelphia, turned out to be incredibly rare in high grade or with hidden minting errors that no one noticed until years later. If you're holding a 1980 Kennedy half dollar in extra fine condition, you're already ahead of the curve. In this grade, you'll still see Kennedy's hair sharply defined, smooth cheeks, and clean lettering around the rim, all signs of a well-preserved coin. But what makes this year truly special is what lies beneath the surface. Let's start with one of the biggest mysteries in modern coinage: the missing mint mark varieties. A small number of 1980 half dollars were struck without a mint mark, even though they should have carried a P for Philadelphia or D for Denver. These rare no mint mark errors can command $2,000 to $5,000, depending on condition. But if that coin also happens to show a proof, like mirror finish, things can skyrocket. Some have traded hands privately for more than $25,000. Now, there's an even rarer kind: the transitional planchet error. These are coins accidentally struck on leftover 40% silver planchets from the 1976 bicentennial series. A few examples have surfaced, verified by expert grading services, and the values are nothing short of breathtaking. We're talking $150,000 to $300,000, sometimes even higher, depending on weight and luster. Imagine finding one of those in an old coin roll from your grandfather's desk. But the surprises don't stop there. The 1980 Kennedy half dollar also has known off-center strikes, double dies, and broadstruck errors, where the coin's rim spreads out like a halo. These dramatic minting blunders are visually stunning, and collectors go absolutely wild for them. Prices range from $5,000 to over $75,000, depending on how extreme the error appears. And then there's the king of them all, the flawless, high-grade mint state examples. Coins graded Ms. 68 or Ms. 69 by PCGs or NGC are among the rarest modern Kennedys ever found. In 2022, one such coin, perfect lust row marks. No toning, shocked the auction world, selling for an astonishing $475,000. That's nearly $500,000 for a coin struck in a year when everyone thought half dollars were dead. So, how can you tell if your 1980 Kennedy half might be worth a fortune? Start simple. Check for the mint mark above the date P or D, tilt the coin under a bright light, and look for doubling on Liberty or In God We Trust. Feel the edge. Does it show a solid silver tone rather than copper? If it does, you may have one of those elusive transitional errors. And if your coin gleams with a mirror finish, it might just be a proof strike that escaped into circulation. It's incredible to think that a coin made during the age of cassette tapes and rotary phones could now be worth more than a sports car. That's the wonder of the Kennedy half dollar. Every year tells a story, and every strike holds a secret. So before you spend that 1980 half dollar or let it collect dust, take a moment. Examine it carefully, because that simple coin, the one you might have ignored for decades, could be the hidden treasure that changes everything.